Hey, Center Point friends and family, we're back. My name is Mike Toll. Here with my friend Bob Perry, who has a master's degree in apologetics. But we're doing these series of videos to hopefully equip you with more confidence in your faith, and that's what we've called this a confidence course. And so we talked a little bit about last time of how the culture influences our definition of faith. Bob, you wanted to talk a little bit about the background on how things influence that and how we really should be defining our faith from a biblical point of view.
Right. I mentioned before, it's kind of a long history of philosophy that led up to it. But in the mid-1800s, there was a time that we call the Enlightenment, where the church was being corrupted. There was a lot of bad stuff going on. People were losing confidence in the church itself because bad people were doing bad things.
Right.
At the same time, there was this rise of science. We were starting to learn a lot about the way the world worked. And I think it's ironic that it was Christians who led that scientific revolution.
Yeah.
They came up with the scientific method. They were the ones who led that. But anyway.
Yeah, and somehow there's been a divide there, but really there was a lot of overlap.
Right.
Yeah.
There used to be.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what I wanted to get at, is during the Enlightenment, because there was kind of a distrust of religious issues, I'll put it that way, and a rise of science, we started to separate the world to where people began to think, well, this religious faith things are something that's just up to me. But when I really want to learn something about the world, I go to the scientific evidence or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not a coincidence that that's when Darwin came along in 1859. He wrote The Origin of Species. It was just about the time that all this was happening. And so there's been this split. Francis Schaeffer has called it the upper story and lower story, where we divided. Faith became a personal, irrational, we call it the leap of faith.
Right.
You just go up here, you don't really have to have any evidence. You just believe that stuff because it works for you.
It's what I feel, it's what I've experienced, it's those sort of things.
Right. And then science gives us the real evidence about how the real world works.
Right.
Well, we've bought into that.
Yeah.
And people will, blind faith, people will say, I just have faith. I mentioned that before. And we need to understand that the Christian worldview does not see the world that way.
Yeah.
We see that those two things are connected, that evidence and spirituality, if you will, fit together for a reason, because they describe the whole world as it really is. A lot of us have been led to believe that the only things that are real are physical.
Right.
Because that's what we study with science.
Right.
But there are things like truth and goodness and beauty and ethics and justice. These are all real things that we experience every day that aren't physical.
Right.
So something being real doesn't mean that it's the only, or something being physical doesn't mean it's the only thing that's real.
Exactly.
And we have to kind of merge these things together. So what I like to talk about is to understand how the Bible puts forth the idea of faith is this. There's a difference between belief and faith. We kind of lump those together, I think. Belief, and I use this example from my background with aviation.
Right.
But I can see airplanes flying overhead. I can read books and watch movies and videos about airplanes flying. I believe that airplanes can fly.
I do too.
Good. But when do I have faith that airplanes fly?
Right.
I have to step on the airplane.
Right.
So if I'm here in Cincinnati, I want to go to LA, I can believe all day that the airplanes fly, but I don't have faith in them until I step on the airplane.
Right.
I take an active step of trust.
Yeah.
That's what faith is.
Yeah. And it's doing what you believe.
Right.
Right.
It's an active trust in the evidence that you have. And that evidence can come from science. It can come from a lot of different places. There are different reasons. People are led to faith in different ways. I'm not trying to say that we all do it the same way. Some people are more feelings and emotion oriented, experientially oriented. Some people just want plain scientific evidence, and that's what works for them.
Yeah, if Jesus told the woman at the well, it says, one day they will worship me in both spirit and truth. And some of that had to do with how Israel's history kind of dictated that. Those who were in exile did not have the temple or the law to worship, so that their worship was experiential. Those who were at home had those physical things and had the knowledge and that sort of thing. You could worship more in that style. So I think the two aren't different. They're not mutually exclusive. They're meant to be brought together.
That's a great way to put it. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
They are integrated.
Exactly.
Together.
Yeah.
And we have to quit accepting the idea that the culture tries to put on us that faith is just this irrational thing that's just up to me to decide. It's not. That we do have evidence. Some of the greatest thinkers in the world who were atheists came to faith because of the evidence they saw in different areas.
Absolutely.
C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest apologists of all time, was an atheist.
Yeah, he said, I've came to faith kicking and screaming.
Right.
And I love that image.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that is really his evidence and research and trying to figure out the logic and reasoning around ethics, around philosophy, around science, that he said, this is the most reasonable worldview.
Right.
You know, and so I love that image of coming, kicking, and screaming.
Yeah.
Didn't want to believe, but the evidence led me to it.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, the Apostle Paul, when he said the Bible says that he was kicking against the goads.
Yes.
He did not want to believe that. He was dead set against what he was hearing from these Christians. He wanted to kill them.
Yeah. I'm going to have to use that phrase more often in life, kicking against the goats.
That hurts.
That hurts. That's absolutely true. Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, that's
great. And so that's the kind of reset we want to have going into these series of videos is a redefinition of faith. And that isn't just something that's blind or irrational or some just leap of faith, as you said, but that there's reason behind it and there's action behind it.
Right.
Not just that. So I think that will wrap up our second video, and we'll be back for the next one. Stay tuned to help us understand a little bit more about the relationship between faith and science, as all these videos will do. Hopefully continue to encourage you and give you confidence in your faith. But thanks for watching. Feel free to chime in with a question or thought on the email below, and we will be happy to respond to those in kind. Bob, thanks again.
Thank you.